Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Mr. Neil.
How you doing, everybody?
Neil, that is the best shirt in the world. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Gotta love it. That's why I call myself Chef Turtle.
It's the classic one, too.
Yes,
Well,
it's actually the original Casey Jones and everything.
so that's where you really got the name Turtle from? Like, why are you called Chef
Yeah.
Turtle?
Well, I've always had a passion for the Ninja Turtles. I've loved them, what they stand for, unity, just being there to help everybody, and that's what I like to do for the patients. Teach them, help them learn how to use cannabis for medical reasons, for relaxing, anxiety, pain, and all that. And because of my, I guess, obsession with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when I was the sous chef at the Mint Cafe, a couple people started calling me Turtle and Chef Turtle, and it just stuck from there.
And what do you try and do with cannabis to help show people, I guess, the brighter side of it, I would say?
I'm actually, I started a business called Chef Turtle's Infusion Consulting, and basically I do workshops with patients. If they have a card and they're a card holder out in Arizona, they can do on-site demos of infusions on butter, oil, sugars, honey, just different ways to actually infuse it into everyday products and use it in your everyday recipes. For patients that don't want to be on pain meds or psychotropic drugs for anxiety or depression, they can find help and relief from a plant, and they can do it at home. Especially patients on a budget.
Yeah.
Instead of buying an edible at the store you're getting so many milligrams for a big price, you can break that down with a certain percentage of a flower and get a lot more milligram breakdown when you do the extraction yourself or infusion yourself and separate it out. So instead of paying $50 for something that's going to get you a week's supply, you can spend $100 and get like a 2-month supply if you do it yourself.
Why did you turn to cannabis though? Because I'm not a big cannabis guy at all. I don't have a problem with pot. I mean, honestly, every time I've gotten too high, which is every single time I've ever smoked when I was in school. I mean, I had one story where I felt like my balls went into my asshole, so I'm never doing that ever again. But
Yeah.
recently, I suffer from severe depression. I've actually been dealing with a spinal issue for I guess since January. It's been causing some major complications. But my doctor was prescribing me these antidepressants like Zoloft. And I'm like, I'm not fucking taking any more pills, dude. Like I'm 22. I'm not trying to take 50 pills for the rest of my life. And
I agree with that.
so he immediately was like, man, I'm just going to write you this prescription. You pick it up. And I picked it up, and I haven't taken one. And my physical therapist was like, have you ever thought about taking medical marijuana? So she gave me an interview with this guy and signed me up to go get my medical card. Now, just the other day, I received this bottle of pills, and it's medical marijuana in little pill form.
Okay.
I'm a guy that is like, oh, ibuprofen, take 2. I'm going to take 3. I'm going to take 4. Well, I took 6 of these things. They're about 20 milligrams each. Next thing I know, I'm sitting there like, like a few hours later, I'm blasted out of my mind. I'm like, I think I took too much. So I called her. I was like, how many have I should have taken? She's like, well, about probably one's good. That's 2 servings. I'm like, one's 2 servings? She goes, yeah, you cut it in half. I'm like, so I took like 160 something milligrams. And she's like, yeah, that's a lot. She's like, you're probably freaking out right now. I was like, I am freaking out.
And I hear those kind of stories a lot with patients because they don't know how to properly dose themselves.
Well, I think it's about edibles too. It gets difficult because when you're cooking it, it's very hard to get the exact measurements. Like smoking, when someone offers you a little bit more and you're like, I could go a little bit more. You probably can't.
Gauging it off of smoking to ingesting is a lot different the way your body absorbs it. When you're smoking, yes, it's instantaneous. You can feel it right away, and you can stop right away before you get to that extreme level. A lot easier than you can with an edible until you know your own endocannabinoid system and how it breaks down the cannabis for you. You have low dose guys and high dose guys. By the sound of it, I would suggest starting with a low dose for you, something more in the range of like a 1-to-1 CBD to THC as well. So you're getting the CBD attributes, which are going to inhibit your CB1 and CB2 receptors from overloading with THC and absorbing it too fast or too quickly. It'll kind of plateau it so you don't get that holy fuck, what did I just do?
Yeah,
Feeling like you did last time.
I've had so many of those moments in my life, which is like why I tell people I'm not into it, but I understand why you do it because I've seen it help people with MS. I've seen it help people with like Parkinson's. I've seen it
Yes.
do so much. I mean, I don't really have a problem with the pharmacy industry. I just have the way that we've been choosing to go with it for so long has been the wrong way. I had a pharmacist on my podcast and we were talking, and the way she just tries to educate that the fact that there are some pills out there that can help where marijuana can't, obviously. But I feel like the norm should be more of a turn to medical cannabis, only because like when this pandemic situation happened, there was a line probably almost half a mile long outside of a local dispensary. And I was like, I didn't know there were that many potheads in this town. But like, it was weird to see because you saw age groups ranging from really young to really old. And you started to realize that everyone was starting to look at marijuana in a different way that it's been looked at for so long. I mean, it's been disbanded. It's been, there's all the controversial issues everyone talks about with the government not being able to regulate it and legalize it. I'm like, if it's a better form of helping people, isn't that what it's supposed to be about?
Yeah, I mean it's all about a medicine, being able to help where the pills cannot. And there are certain issues. I do agree that there are certain pharmaceuticals that work best for people, depending on what it is and what kind of a person it is. But again, there's so many avenues with the medical marijuana industry for help with anxiety, depression, seizures, chronic pain issues, muscle spasms, epilepsy, just the list goes on and on. When I first started doing test runs with like different candies and stuff like that about 6 years ago, I had friends that I would do like month-long tests with to see if it would help their pain, if it could help get them off the pain meds and just do something natural. And I've got wonderful documented results from people that had stab wounds and almost died that could only eat with a G tube. So it had to go in through a tube and be able to liquefy down to get the medicine because they couldn't eat orally. I've had people with stage 3 MS that were stuck in a bed, couldn't get out, was on a bunch of pain meds, was able to gain his weight back with using my infused cannabis, get off most of the meds, and get back into his wheelchair and, you know, gain his strength back basically through cannabis. I myself, I've had 2 knee surgeries. I've got 12 holes in each knee, tendonitis and arthritis in my right shoulder, and compressed discs in my lower back. And I've still managed to run kitchens, do what I do, and it doesn't slow me down.
So that's kind of where the passion for cannabis and becoming a cannabis chef kind of came from. But I think what's interesting about your work is the fact that not only are you educating people on it, but you're also making creations that are a lot better than what I would normally think of when we think of edibles. I mean, every edible I've ever had has been like a cookie, has been gummy worms, has been something crazy where I'm like, if a 75-year-old man walks into a store, I don't think he's buying sour worms or whatever the sour gummies are. I think he
Yeah,
wants something a little bit different. But like, what else do you make? Like, I saw, I was looking through some of your stuff on Instagram, and I was like, damn, this is like a fine course dining meal.
I do all kinds of stuff. One of my specialties lately is sugars and honeys, just the basic stuff with oils and butters to do any kind of recipe you can think of. I can use my sugars into a milkshake or into a smoothie. Just add it in, it's already activated, and boom, you've got your fruit smoothie, a little extra sugar in there. I can do fake sugars for people that are diabetic. If they don't like sugar at all and they want to go like a honey route or a coconut oil route, you can do capsules. You can do, people like to add my honey to their coffee or their tea to sweeten it instead of using the granulated sugar. Those kind of aspects. What was it? 3 weeks ago, I did a Snake River Farm Golden Wagyu brisket. I did a triple infusion on that. So I tried to gear myself, other than my sugars, I try to gear away from the normal baking and get to the savory foods, your mac and cheese, some sauces, meats, stir fries, stuff that a lot of the everyday folk would rather eat instead of just the sweets.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I had an idea for starting like a fast food restaurant kind of, but it's like you sit down and you get high from the meal. And then there's another side to it for when you're already stoned and you just really want something to eat. Cause I feel like there's no place to go when you're super freaking hungry or something like that. Like when I mean, every time I've ever been high up, enjoyed a bag of chips, but like I said, getting too high, you start analyzing the sound of the crunch and you start feeling like you're chewing on glass and then you freak the fuck out, But like, what
Oh
really
yeah.
got me interested in it was to see the doses of people that could really take these types of stuff and to see where people use it to really function. For me, it's not a functional thing, but I've seen people like Joey Diaz, for instance. That fucking guy can take so many edibles and he doses people, but he literally can function, talk, do everything. I watched Getting Dug with High, and one of the best episodes I have ever watched is an episode with Todd Glass. And Todd Glass is so much like me when I get stoned. Is all about like, am I being funny? Am I being cool? Am I doing it? It's so self-analyzing. But then he's like staring at the thing, and I'm like blazed out of my mind staring at the TV, and he just goes, "You sitting on your couch with a bag of chips in your hand." And I look down, I'm like, he's fucking talking to me. And he goes, "See," and I'm like, "What are you doing, Todd?" And he looks over and goes, "See, some person out there is listening to this, and he's going to realize that, and that's going to be fun for him." I'm like, he's thinking about the audience. I
Yep.
freaking love it.
That's awesome.
Have you ever had like a certain high experience, either a really enjoyable one that like, or maybe let's talk about your first time first, because I don't know if that's everyone's favorite.
My first time, I was really young, and it was just one of those. I was trying to get the feel of what was actually happening when I actually felt the effects of marijuana. So I didn't really know how to completely respond. I did enjoy myself, hung out with a bunch of friends, just laughed, giggled, and probably did the norm. Smoked weed in my mom's house when I was a little kid, like 11 or 12. A bunch of friends, we ditched school and had a good time. Um, Nothing really crazy on those stories. I'd say one of the funniest stories I've got was probably when I was 15. I was smoking a blunt with a couple friends in their vehicle, clam baking in the driveway. They told me they were going to go inside and get a drink of water and bring a bottle of water out for me. They were gone maybe 5 minutes. I swear up and down, it was like 2 hours. And it was just the longest time sitting in that car watching a blunt burn, just trying to comprehend the reality of what was going on, whether it was time had stopped or it was going really fast. But I swear it was like 2 hours. They came back and it was only 5 minutes.
I think that's what's really important about marijuana. I always talk about like the reason why I say it's never bad, not only because I see it help people, is because I think it also opens your eyes up to a whole nother perspective of the world, such as like I think we all kind of noticed with the pandemic situation that has kind of happened is that our lives have completely kind of shut down, and we realized we
Yeah.
weren't as powered in it as we thought we were in our own, like we didn't have the keys to our own car. And with everything, I feel like we're now coming off autopilot and we're realizing what we truly want, what we want to do, realizing how much power we actually have. And we're trying to correct ourselves and fix these potholes that we
Yeah.
thought in a life that was kind of sealed shut. And marijuana has always done that for me. It's corrected me on so many things. Whenever I smoke it, I'm always kind of self-analyzing myself, like, man, that's your second diet soda already. Like, and then it's like, oh, like I feel like shit when I eat this, or I feel it's good, but it's not, it's an inner kind of reflector of yourself, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's an amazing thing because it can correct you when you're being an asshole. I don't think I've ever run into anybody on pot that's been screaming and cursing at somebody in a grocery store line. So it's pretty amazing. And I look at a most
They're
memorable
usually
moment
stuck
for
staring at the juices or candies. Do I
yeah,
want this?
that's the toughest decision you'll ever have in your life is trying to figure out what food you want. Honestly,
Right?
I'll sit there with my hands on my knees and I'll start thinking the guy at the cashier or the cash registers judging me on how long I'm taking to figure out Twix or Milky Way. And
Right?
so when we look at moments like those, the one thing I really love about it is the fact that how memorable it can make it when you're smoking with friends, when you're just involved in it. Like I've had a really good moment and I'll share with you. I went to Assateague, which is like this local beach, and they have horses, wild horses that come onto the beach. It's a huge
Ooh, that
tourist
sounds
spot.
nice.
Well, my buddy gives me a bag of cookies, but they're all crumbled up at the bottom, like someone stepped on them and they've been running around in the back or something. Someone's been just trampling all over them. And I'm like, what's this? He goes, they're edibles, man. Just take like half a cookie. And I'm like, it's fucking crumbs. How am I supposed to tell what half a cookie is? And he goes, just take like a handful of it. I'm pretty sure it's only half a cookie in the bag. So I'm like, okay, sweet. So I just stick my hand in and, dump it over, get it all in my mouth. And the next thing I know, we're bodyboarding. And I literally just let go of my bodyboard and start floating and staring up at the sky. And I realized I was way too fucking high. So I just let the waves keep slamming me and like for like the next hour. And then I just get up and I walk back to the car. And as I'm putting away my bodyboard, my buddy's trailing way behind me. And he comes up and goes, Rob, look beside you. I just look over. There's a freaking horse, dude. I swear to you. I was getting ready to pet it. My buddy's screaming at me, no, like it's wild horses. They bite. Don't do it. And I'm sitting there like,
Yeah.
dude, this is awesome. The horse turned around and I shit you not, no pun intended. This horse let out the biggest fucking fart I have ever seen in my entire life. And I couldn't like when a cat walks by and you immediately look at its asshole, like, oh God. Like you look away. This horse just turned around. I just kept staring, and I just watched this thing open up like a mouth of a fish and just start vibrating like in and out. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like dying laughing, and no one else can see that. Like they just see me laughing at a horse's butt, and they're wondering what's happening. I'm like trying to breathe and trying to say what I'm seeing. And they're taking a video of it. So there's just this video of me where I look like I'm stoned out of my ass, freaking literally watching a horse's ass. And like, my buddy's like, why were you laughing so fucking hard? I was like, dude, you couldn't hear it, but the horse, it was just and it was the fucking, I'll never forget that to the day that I die. That was like 6 years ago. That was like, it's still imprinted in my head, dude. Every time I see a horse, every time.
There's some of those memorable moments. They get it. A lot of them are good though.
Now,
So,
that's what I'm telling you, it's good bonding experiences with friends. Now, what's a terrible moment you had? Like, I think I mentioned mine in the beginning. I was pretty traumatic, but I have another one I'll share if you share one of your fear moments, I would say.
Okay, I got one. I was driving with a good friend of mine, and I had taken what I thought would be a good dose for myself to go and relax. And I figured because if it was a truffle, it would kick in about 45 minutes to an hour. So we had time to get to where we were going, and then I'd be out of the vehicle, and then I'd be fine. Took a little longer at home. We started driving off. I got about maybe a mile and a half from the road and looked at my buddy. I'm like, I got to pull over and you're driving because everything looks wavy. And everything hit me all at once, and it just kind of gave me the tracer effect, I guess.
I've had it where like it feels like you're on the tilt-a-whirl and you can't focus.
Spinning.
Oh my God, dude. I had my buddy, he was doing spin outs in his car after we just smoked. I mean, way too much to the point where I was like, everything started getting really, really like saturation. Felt like someone turned it up. Outside looked like a volcano was going off. Everything was red. We were watching the sunset. And I'm like sitting in the back of the car like this. And my buddy's like, dude, you don't look so good. And I'm like, my face is flushed white. I'm freaking like about to vomit. And my back of my brain's just spinning. And he starts doing donuts like an asshole. And next thing I know, he just looks at me. He goes, oh, hell no. Freaking grabs my head and shoves it out the window, basically. And I just start vomiting. But what I said about it being an inner reflector, right before I smoked, I literally drowned. I used to eat Ken steak, honey mustard syrup, that bottle. I used to drown my chicken tenders in that shit like it was soup. And I realized I've never had that honey mustard since that day, but it showed because I threw it all up. And I was like, I'm never eating fucking dinosaur nuggets or honey mustard ever again.
That does happen. I did that once and threw up a bunch of, garlic herb noodles. I overpowered it with my butter. And it just, I ended up ingesting, I think, 500 plus milligrams instead of the 150 I thought I was. And the spins and then everything came up because it was way too intense for my body.
That's what's terrible about like when you smoke versus when you eat is because like you can eat it and then it hits you a few hours later. Like I remember eating an edible like 2 hours before I went to bed and I had school the next day. I woke up and I was high. Like I was
Yep.
like, I can't go to school. And he's like, why? I'm like, cause it's already difficult trying to put my shoes on right now at this point. I was like, I keep going off and doing other shit. Like
Getting
I
that
would go to,
sidetrack moment.
I would go and stick my foot in the shoe. And then next thing I know, I'd be like, what? My teeth feel funny. And I would just sit there and I would just start doing something stupid and like completely like, oh, I want to watch Step Brothers. And I'd be watching TV. I'm like, oh shit, I got to get to school. Hang on a second. Let me get my foot back in. But some of the best moments though. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen the movie Step Brothers, I'm guessing, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I've seen it a few times.
There's a director's documentary part, like kind of where they explain the movie, the scenes that are going on. It's Adam Kay, Will Ferrell, and John C. Reilly all talking about the movie that they were filming. Well, they talk about the movie for the first 10 minutes. The rest of the movie, I recommend this to anybody if you're high or just want to laugh in general. They go off on the weirdest shit I have ever heard in my entire life. And I don't know, that thing felt 4 hours long to me. I was sitting on the couch with a nice giant salad bowl of freaking cereal because that's what you go for. And I mean, I was way too toasted. And I'm watching it, and all I'm hearing is him start talking about the scene in the movie with the nutsack on the drum set. And
Yes.
he goes, "Holy shit! Hang on a second." All you hear is a door open up, and then all you hear is it's freaking, and they name some basketball player, some famous basketball player, and they just start coming in and talking about basketball while you're watching Step Brothers happen. And it's like, where am I at right now? Am I in another, like, I feel like I'm tripping way too hard. And then it gets to the Catalina wine mixer, and Adam K's like, I remember when we filmed this scene, it was shitty because nobody could wake the fuck up to record it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what's happening? I feel like I took
That's
a
great.
drug.
It's a great way to trip people out because you're listening to one and watching another.
I was like, that's the best thing. That's like why I understand cartoons is because it's like you want to have laughs, and I feel like that's what's really needed. I mean, how many times do you just want to watch like a murder documentary when you're high? No, you want to laugh, you want to have fun, you want to enjoy the moments with your friends.
I love doing that. That's why I like to go out and camp when I'm doing it. I can just be a little kid. I don't no responsibilities, just be free of life, go enjoy nature or go to I guess you'd say an adult playground, just go swing.
Yeah.
Be a kid for a moment. Enjoy life.
Now, when we talk about maybe starting up a restaurant, is that in the future for you besides just doing a business out of like, like you're kind of like more open to the public, I would say. I mean, I know you can sell your stuff and you can sell your creations to people through like Instagram and also like nearby and local spots. But like, have you ever thought about owning up your own restaurant that, deals in this type of function? Like, hey, we make cannabis creations, and at the same time, we also provide a fun atmosphere to be around.
Yes, to answer that question, there is only one true cannabis infusion kitchen, or cafe, I should say, that you can actually get savory foods, fresh baked goods out of, which is actually the Mint Cafe up in Tempe out here. All the rest that advertisement themselves as that is CBD only, because federally you can only ingest CBD because it's a non-psychoactive on site and then be still allowed to leave. With that aspect, you would still have to purchase it as a to-go and then consume it at home because it is a cannabis psychoactive or psychotropic drug. So they can't eat it on site just yet because of the laws. Once it goes federally legal and it's properly managed, I guess you would say, by the state or the government, however they feel they deem to want to do it, to be able to legalize it for on-site consumption at a restaurant, that would be an opportunity and an avenue I would like to try with a couple different friends that want to get involved with food trucks, stationary restaurants or cafes, different coffee shops, those kind of avenues. I'd personally like to be able to create it and then have somebody else run it and let them make the money on it, or I'm just taking a piece of the royalties of a small amount and they've got their own business at that point. I'd personally like to just help people create my recipes, get them out there, I'm making cooking videos right now too. They'll be uploaded in the beginning of July on YouTube, Chef Turtle's Infusion Kitchen. So that's another avenue to help teach. But I've been in the restaurant field for over 16 years. I've ran kitchens. I know how they work on the innards, the outwards. And for me, it's more of a headache than anything
Because the
to
industry is
run
so
one.
tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would rather help somebody create one and then send them off on their way to run that whole thing and just take a little piece. So that I'd give them all the recipes, get their kitchen staff trained up properly in this, that, and the other, and then be able to step away from it, still collecting, but they would be able to run their business in a successful manner with successful products that are properly gauged.
You should be a marijuana nutrition coach. When I
That is another.
Yeah, when I say that though, but like the consulting aspect of things, like if you were going to be a consultant for me, somebody that is kind of new to cannabis or not really new
Okay.
to it, but every time he's had a really bad experience to it, because I do prefer edibles over smoking because smoking, I don't know what it does. It burns my throat. I went through 8 bottles of water in 10 minutes. My buddy's like, "Are you okay?" Plus I took a dab one time.
Oh,
Have you ever dabbed?
yes, many times.
What's your dab experience? And I'll share mine.
um, I'm not a big dab guy. I like my flower. I smoke a lot of joints, bongs. I use dabs like people drink liquor instead of beer. It's a once in a while thing if I want to get that nice, relaxing, quick high on an intense level. I've watched people black out from it because it's so intense. I've watched people cough for hours, throw up because it just burns their throat. They're doing it at the wrong temperature. They're doing way too hot when they're burning it. They're just not used to it, or whatever the case is. And I've heard a lot of bad experiences as well as good experiences. Mine, I've had not necessarily bad, other than just choking, and because it's really harsh.
Okay, well, before we get to your good experience, I'm going to talk about my bad experience. So, this is
Go
the
for
day I also encountered cocaine for the first time. So, I went to with a friend of mine. We picked up some Chick-fil-A and we decided to go to his drug dealer's house, who is also a friend of his that eventually became a friend of mine.
it. Okay.
So, I'm at this stranger's house eating Chick-fil-A or getting ready to. And my buddy is a big weed guy. And he pulls out a dab the size of a 50-cent coin. And he starts lighting it up on the stove. I'm already not interested because when I'm high, I forget things. And next thing I know, I'll burn my hand on the hot torch. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm just not interested in it. I'm not a big weed guy. I'll be fine. Next thing I know, they're talking. He's sitting there holding the thing on the thing. And next thing you know, he's like, Rob, can you hold this real quick? I gotta go help him real quick. I said, okay, I'm fine with that. So I'm holding the torch and I'm sitting there. He goes, Rob, just take a hit. And then I kind of got peer pressured into it. Next thing I know, I take a 50-cent coin dab piece after I've never dabbed before and I rarely smoke. I swear to you, I got locked in the bathroom for 45 minutes. Next thing I know, yeah, that was a tough one for me to get through. He had a laundromat in his bathroom as well. So he had the washer and dryer in there. He's like, I need to wash my clothes. I'm like, I don't know how to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm trying to focus on not dying. And then I go into the family room where he had a puppy that was a bloodhound. So I'm sitting here trying to eat a Chick-fil-A wrap and this bloodhound just keeps running into me and jumping on top of me trying to get to the wrap. I'm sitting on the ground like pushing him away. Then next thing I know, I go and I'm like, I'm gonna play Xbox. My brain's like, I know how to do this. I can function this. So I walk in there,
Okay.
play
Yeah.
Xbox. I'm gone 10 minutes. I come back out. I hear a door open up. A guy sits down on the couch. I look over. There's just a giant mound of cocaine on the table, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, I think this is like just I'm in some weird state right now. And he just goes, oh, you want some? I'm like, dude, if this is me on a dab, I am not touching cocaine for the rest of my life.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, I mean, that was my memorable experience. Have you had a super good one?
I've had a lot of good ones. Oh, a great one just this last year. I did a 30-mile round trip backpacking trip with a good friend of mine out at the Rivas Ranch. We went out there and did a couple dabs. I think what was it that next morning, and then I laid in the hammock for probably 2 hours and just kind of reflected on life of how peaceful it was in that moment, enjoying the moment and not having to think about anything else. I got lost in the clouds, the trees, and everything, but it was just probably one of the most peaceful moments I've had when I was doing dabs. That's
I've,
why I like to go camping a lot.
I'm a big camping nature guy. I think after getting high for the first time and kind of noticing a lot of things I was putting by my wayside, sort of really anybody ever wants to just sit on your steps and listen to the sound of the trees sway, the wind going through the trees, the rustling of grass, anything like that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's stuff we completely ignore on a daily basis. And it's always wonder why in any stoner movie or something you see them go out into nature. It's because you're realizing you're missing the best form of entertainment because you're
Oh yeah.
surrounded by four walls and you don't that's all you're comfortable with. You want to watch Netflix. I'm like, I'd rather go outside. I sat on my porch the other day for like 3 hours just listening to nothing, just listening to the flowers and the trees. And it was the most peaceful thing. I mean, I think everyone this year has had a rough time. So
Yeah.
for people out there, just take a step outside, take that deep breath in, and you realize, holy shit, you got air in your lungs. And it's important. And I think I didn't know how stigmatized weed was until I became older. I mean, when I was a little kid, it was, don't do that drug. That was a bad drug. Don't do that. It's stoners. They don't go anywhere. And then I started noticing, like the other day, I smelled like my uncle came over and I'm like, it smells like grandmom's porch. And he goes, oh, and I'm like, why is that nostalgia for me? I'm immediately getting brought back to Thanksgiving at grandmom's house on the porch. He goes, I probably smell like weed. And I'm like, that's when you start realizing your family smokes. And you're like,
Yep.
so now every time I smell weed, I think of my grandmom's porch. Thank you
And you
for
get
that.
that nice relaxing feeling.
But I actually enjoy that because I'm like, it's fucking Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's and all these other moments where I would walk outside as a kid and be like, what's that? What's that smell? It smells like a skunk, you know? And
Yep.
then now it's like, oh shit. So now I always have that thing that's a nostalgia thing, like certain objects or certain songs or certain things linking to a memory. And it's so fucking like that's why I don't mind being around is because I'm sitting around and I'm like, I'm not going to, take any of your stuff. Like people always work about the backstabbing that goes behind the whole cannabis thing. I'm like, enjoy it, dude. I don't want any of it. If you want to share and I want some, sure. But no, it's a nostalgia thing for me. And I feel like that's for a lot of people. We have these experiences or we have these things that bring us back to a certain point when life wasn't so terrible.
Oh yeah. Well, smells in any manner have a way of doing that for everybody. It's good you mentioned that too. You can also tell what strain would be good for you just by smelling the terpenes in it that go up into your nose, the sensation of the aroma. If you get a bad feeling or a bad vibe, like sensation in your head when you smell that, it's probably not best for you to purchase that actual strain. But then there's other strains, they all have different scents. And I'm sure you've smelled different bags of weed and you've gotten different feelings from it. You're like, ooh, that smells really good. And it kind of relaxes you for a second. Or you'll smell and be like, ooh, that's nasty. And it makes you kind of cringe.
One
The
that
difference
my
is,
family does is one that smells exactly like chemicals. Like, I mean, it's really, really pungent for me, and I couldn't do it. There's another one like I can always tell when they change it up. I'm like, hey, this one's different. And they go, how do you know that? Like, it doesn't look any different. I'm like, because this one smells like someone put chlorine in it, like you're doing something laced with something. And he goes, no, it's really, really strong stuff. And I'm like, it doesn't smell right to me. It hurts my head, I would say.
and that would be a strain you would want to definitely stay away from because the effects of that are not going to be pleasant for you because it's already not reacting well with your senses and your nostrils because of the aroma.
So if I was going to ask you to, as a consultant, I would say, be able to pick me out a certain edible or type of cannabis creation, how would you typically go about it?
Well, if you were to ask me personally, because I already know a little bit of your background and your style of dosing, I would suggest a 2-to-1, CBD to THC. So you're getting more of the non-psychoactive to the psychoactive components to help either calm your mind, relax, because you did mention a lot about anxiety and stuff. So you use just a little bit, like a 5 milligram dose of THC to 10 milligram dose of CBD. You're getting your 2-to-1. It'll help calm yourself. It'll help relax everything, de-stress, anti-inflammatories, that kind of aspect. Slowing the mind down is basically what I try to get for myself when those anxiety moments happen and you're just overwhelmed. CBD is a great aspect to help deal with high stress situations. It'll help calm you down. And I always say use just a little bit of THC, like 2-to-1s, 5 milligram to 10 milligram of CBD to THC, because With that little bit of THC, you're not going to get a full psychoactive effect because it's too minute, but it'll help the CBD aspect fully work 100%. You need both of them to get the full effect in your body from your endocannabinoid system. CBD by itself is still great, but you're only getting about 80% of the effects that you would normally get if you combine the two together, because they work off of each other. They feed off of each other in a sense.
Yeah, I can
And
always
again,
handle CBD, but when it comes to THC, it seems like I lose my mind a little too easily.
yeah, and that does tend to happen. And if a great piece of advice, if you ever get too high on the cannabis plant, THCA, THCV, or any of those aspects of the cannabinoid that are psychotropic or psychoactive, take a high dose CBD. And within 30 minutes, I'd say a tincture is the best way to ingest it, straight CBD tincture. So if you ever get too high, just take 20 to 30 milligrams of that CBD tincture. Within 30 to 45 minutes, you'll feel that you're back to like a normal level. Everything's calm. If you're having the spins, that will stop. Your mind will slow down. It'll plateau the level, and it'll also inhibit your CB1 and CB2 receptors, and it will stop the intake of the THC component to help you level out and come back down to a reality you can control.
Damn it, Neil. Where were you when that bloodhound was jumping on top of my chicken wrap?
I was over here doing something.
Jesus. I always usually just hop in the shower and turn that shit on and try and pray to God it stops spinning.
That will help. You're just trying to get control of your mind at that point. But I always have some form of CBD on hand that I can just ingest quickly, just in case those manners happen. And you can find them at any CBD shop that's it's all federally legal, so you can find them at most states.
Yeah,
just random
usually
CBD
what
shops.
I smoke through my vape is CBD oil just to help a little bit. It doesn't get me
Yeah.
like blasted like THC, but it does get me like there's a point where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good right now. A lot of the pain, like with my back or something, usually goes a little bit better.
Yeah.
How do you typically prefer to give me this? Like if you're going to talk about a higher CBD ratio over THC, how would you like what meal would you cook it in? Like how would you ask somebody like what's your preference? Like what would you decide to cook for someone?
My first question would be, well, I would go into what my specialties would be, savory foods, steaks, briskets, pulled porks, barbecue style, or pastas, different kinds of mac and cheeses or spaghettis, things that are nice and hearty. If they weren't a meat eater, if they were more vegan, like a vegan chili or vegan meatloaf, or even just salads using the salad dressing to infuse. If it was just the CBD only, you could use an activated CBD isolate, mix it with an olive oil and make the dressing. Just doing those kind of aspects for getting infused into your food. You would want to gauge the numbers, break it down, do how much you have for whatever you're infusing. And I teach all that in my classes on how to get the correct dose, milligram per gram, milligram per teaspoon, milligram per cup, whatever you're trying to make in those aspects. And then infusing a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 CBD to THC ratio into those foods. It would be somewhat of a similar process, but you would have to do a pull or an activation of the cannabinoids from either your concentrate or your flour, or however you're putting it in, your distillate, your isolate, whether you want a full spectrum, a broad spectrum, or a single cannabinoid only.
Would
And
you
then you would just
typically, like if you're gonna say like talk about a crazy creation or a way to come up with an idea, you're naming off wonderful things that would cause me not to poop for 6 weeks. Like red meat, my body just doesn't do too well, so I'm a fish guy. But like
okay,
mac
then
and
we
yeah,
could
but
do a fish.
like mac and cheese and stuff like that you're talking about, where do you come up with the crazy ideas? Like I heard somebody try and make an egg omelet one time or a souffle and make it that an edible. I'm like, where was this? Every time I walk into a shop, there's no pocket edibles like that. Here's a pocket quiche for you. It's all fucking gummy worms, gummy bears, and candy. I'm like, I don't want that because I'm not at the movies and I'm not 10. I want something that is going to be like a hot dog on a stick or something that's like like a burrito in a pocket. That's dope right there.
Okay. Well, perfect example. I rewrote me and a buddy of mine, we rewrote the menu at the Mint Cafe. We've got burgers, we've got pizza, we got French fries, tater tots, nuggets, mac and cheese, spaghetti, lasagna, tacos. Everybody loves tacos.
Oh yeah.
And it's all vegan friendly. So
Do you feel like that was a big push when you started making these things, was to also make it kind of vegan in a way? Because you feel like a lot more of the, I mean, if we look at CBDs and all these things, vegan is a giant health trend right now.
oh yeah.
And millennials, they all love that. They all want to juice the bubble tea, whatever you want to say. But with marijuana, if it's going to be more open in this industry, it's got to learn to adapt like other things too. And it's got to be switching over to more vegan, I guess, styles in a way. Do you think that like this is going to become a trend? I mean, I feel like 2020 with the whole pandemic and the whole situation that happened, a lot of people turn to medical cannabis or turn to some form of maybe getting high just because they either haven't tried it and they realize life is a little bit too short and they don't know what's going to happen, or they just wanted to have fun because being cooped up with your family members for weeks and weeks on end, somebody's reaching for a butter knife, you know?
My personal opinion, I think it's already become a trend, at least over the past 11 to 12 years since it's become recreational and medically acceptable in different states. The stigma is starting to subside with people because they are learning that it does have good medical attributes for everybody. And the people that are scared of it are finally coming out and going, well, these pain meds, these psychotropic drugs that the doctors are shoving down my throat are making me feel off and I don't like it. So let me try something. And they're going to these places and they're actually getting somewhat of a little bit of knowledge or a lot of knowledge, depending on where they go. And they're finding out that these cannabis plants or hemp plants, your CBD, your THC, more natural ways of helping your body without any negative reactions other than what? Happy, sleepy, hungry. You get cotton mouth and you want to drink 10 gallons of water.
That's me right there.
So,
Holy crap. I remember my buddy goes, "You've drinking a lot of water." I'm like, I know. This is like the first time ever.
so, I mean, just those aspects. You see people that are stoned, they're going to stop and wait for that stop sign to turn green. But you see a guy drinking, he's going to blow through that and hit somebody. I mean, there's two different aspects, in my opinion, on that. And don't get me wrong, I don't dog alcohol because it is a very good way to de-stress and relax if done responsibly. But those are just different ways of looking at it. You get too high, you're going to stop and just like, I'm not leaving my house. I don't really want to go anywhere. I'm going to go to bed. You know, those kind of safety nets, I guess you would call it.
What's your go-to high food?
My go-to high food, I love pizza.
Really?
I'm a pizza guy.
It's like the Ninja Turtles, huh?
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's just always been one of my go-tos. Cereal's an easy one. I love cereal. Back when I was a teenager, you'd always find me with a bowl of cereal, eating, watching something on TV.
I'm always
What about
wondering if
you?
sports is going to finally regulate the fact that athletes should be able to smoke or be able to do some type of cannabis thing, because like they always talk about drug tests and all these things. I'm like, I feel like that wouldn't be, if you become a bodybuilder and you do a lot of marijuana, you smoke a lot or do any cannabis, fucking bravo to you, because I know how
Right?
lazy I get. Like I don't feel like driving
Right?
to the, I don't even feel like putting on sweatpants right now. And it's like, to hear somebody that's like a bodybuilder that, you know, every day is doing marijuana like before they get out of bed, and I'm like, I can get it on the cool down, but just trying to, like, I smoked once and weightlifted. Holy crap, dude. I was feeling the tendons in my arm working. I'm like, I don't like this at all. My buddy's like, you're just lying on the bench press. I was like, I don't even know how to move my legs, bro.
Like me, I personally, I wake up before I'm even online or doing anything. I'm smoking at least one joint and taking my dog for a walk and having an infused coffee of at least 25 to 30 milligrams. So, I mean,
Do you think there's a better way to help or at least get involved in the medical system like yourself to be able to kind of break into the industry a little bit and show them that there's this other form? Because even like I was telling you, taking the medical marijuana, for instance, I didn't do that through my provider. I had to go through some back doors. I had to take a couple of assessments. I had to go and get that information for myself. It wasn't like how originally, like my one doctor was like, I'll just recommend you to this. And then the next, you know, you have an appointment at that place and you didn't even set anything up. You didn't talk to anybody. They just said, I'm going to send you here. And then you got sent there. For the marijuana thing, I had to go and do it on my own. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how is anybody going to know how to set all this up and all these interviews and stuff to get an assessment for it if you're not helping me out here? You're just like, here's the number you can call, and then toss me a number. I'm like, you'll set up the pill appointment, but you won't set up the medical cannabis appointment. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I see that a lot with patients that they have to do it on their own. My best advice to them is basically research in your own state what cannabis certification companies are legit, because they do have a lot of fake ones as well, that just try to take your money and give you BS and then scam you. So do your research, check the reviews, and ask around to friends. If you know somebody that's got a card, hey, how did you get it? What company did you go to? I personally am partnered with Arizona Green Life Certifications, and they have an outreach manager, and she is probably hands down one of the best people I could work with. She is on point with everything. She's got all the information for the patients. It's a one-stop shop. You call that number, you get every piece of information you want, every piece of information you need on how to get certified, and then they will help you step by step of the way. So being able to do a little bit of research can go a long way, finding what company will actually care about the patient and reach out to help you get all the information you need so you can get certified and get your card to get your medicine. Um, I've had to do it many times where I've looked up places, gone to them, and it's just, why the heck did I come here? I wasted 4 hours of my day and it was useless.
I think
So
that's why
read the reviews on it.
that's why marijuana is really involved in the industries, because there's empathy involved. I feel like a lot of it's just a lot of cold suggestions or hard answers. It's like, why don't we get some happiness in there, some Patch Adams type shit? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
let's,
yeah.
find a way to help people find an alternative source that isn't going to deteriorate their health. Because to me, pills, opioids addiction, I've lost so many friends that I've graduated with since high school 5 years ago, and it's really terrible to watch just the whole decline of everybody when they start getting hooked to those pills. Eventually you stop taking them. I mean, I took antidepressants, I just cut it off cold turkey. Completely fucked me up. I mean, to the point where like now I know what thoughts were like, and then they end up like, you have those inner demons, we say. Well, that my cure was working out. It was to help level myself and get rid of the de-stress of the day. And then taking antidepressants, and then stopped taking it, the thoughts stopped and then came back, and next thing you know, you're just like, fuck, like I knew what it was like before. Now you know what that perception's like and this perception's like. It's like, let's find a way just to have empathy in the industry and empathy in the world again. I mean, as a
Yeah.
person that's stoned or a person that's out there doing whatever in the public, when you talk to someone who's high, it's never a bad time. It's fun as shit, because
Yep.
I mean, a lot of times you have to kind of explain yourself because they get shit confused a lot. But at the same time, it's always really interesting just to see that there's no inner thoughts that are like you can always tell on somebody's face if somebody's judging somebody.
Oh
I've been
yeah.
so stoned, worried about everybody judging me, but then they really weren't. They were wondering, what the hell, why is money a thing? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you just got to let that go. The thought of people judging you, because that's what usually makes people paranoid. Is they're just like, they know, and in reality, probably half the people you're walking by are stoned, or at least on a relaxed level of stoned, and still functionable, and running through town doing what they got to do, running their errands, and they're not even paying attention to how you're looking or how you're feeling, and you're going, oh shit, they know, and they're just boom, gone already. So it's that over analyzing of things, and then you become paranoid and worried and stressed, and then it all like kind of caves in like the domino effect.
Now, what I know, starting the YouTube channel, and I know kind of bringing your creations and recipes out there, um, do you try and make them more high class, more good looking? Like you were talking about the spaghetti in the beginning, or the noodles in the beginning, and then you're talking about the stir fries and all these different things. Do all of them have a different effect as well? Like, if I had a stir fry over like a taco or over some mac and cheese, depending on like the level, is there, I guess, a waiter time? Like, this one's going to hit you in 45 minutes instead of an hour. This one's going to last this long instead of this long.
It's all going to be basic breakdown of food in your system. So however long that normal meal takes to break down, that's going to be the same basis of it. So if you have a brownie and it takes 45 minutes for your body to actually digest and break everything down, it'll be about 45 minutes to an hour and a half before it breaks down, absorbs, and then you get the effects. Something in a liquid fashion that's already going like a smoothie with the sugars in it and all that, that would probably be maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and then you'll start feeling some form of effects because it's already in like a liquid state, easier for your body to break down and absorb. Whereas like a tincture, or if you were just to put your sugar in the coffee to make it an actual full liquid, you're getting full absorption to start with through your glands in your mouth, and then you're getting the absorption through the gallbladder. So that's when, with a tincture, it'll hit you within 10 to 15 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the person's absorption rate in their body. From that to a food breakdown, which is 45 minutes to 2 hours. Again, it all depends on how fast your body can absorb the cannabinoids from that food product. So a tincture or a liquid drink is going to absorb a lot faster than a solid food.
He says chef turtle. We're talking about scientist turtle, are we now?
I'm okay with that too.
We
I
gotta
love
start
math.
a brand, bro. We gotta start a brand, man. You gotta do your chef turtle. I want to see hats. I want to see all these types of things, man. I know you got the YouTube channel. He's got the chef turtle. Is that a cookbook?
This is actually one of my cookbooks, my actual business stuff. I've got different recipes, different test results, all that kind of mess.
How do you plan on making yourself different on the YouTube videos? Because I'm already pro support of you, Neil. I'm down with the turtle, dude. I'll come to you if I ever decide to make my own. I mean, I don't know how to use the oven, so as long as we're not doing anything on the oven, that'd be cool.
I can teach you how to do that too. Very simple.
No more taquitos in the microwave for me. I like it.
But I don't know how I want to be different. I just want to be able to show people that you can use this not just in these specialty recipes, but in your everyday life. You can make a basic butter infusion and use it in any recipe you want that's got butter in it. You don't like butter? You can use a basic oil, coconut, olive oil, infuse that and use that in your recipe, being vegetarian or vegan friendly aspects. If you are good with sugars, you can do just a sugar and use it in your coffees, your teas, your smoothies, those kind of different aspects. Pour it over your cereal in the morning, whatever you'd like. If you're a diabetic and you can only do fake sugars, I have ways to infuse that as well and teach those aspects. So that way a diabetic or somebody can do those aspects, honey, fake sugars, and all that. Vegan, gluten-free, I have ways to help with those, create just everyday meals for just the average person. Everybody wants to be high class, like cannabis to table, cooking with cannabis on Netflix. You see all these really extravagant meals. Most people don't do that in their everyday life. Most people throw together stuff and have to feed a big family on a small budget. Well, chilies are great, stir fries, mac and cheese, just I can do budget friendly, I can do high quality. I want to gear it towards just the average patient, the average person. And if you're on a higher level, you've got more money and you want that quality, I can also adhere to you as well, showing you or being the private hire infusion chef and coming and cooking those meals for you. Just different aspects. But I like just the low grade, I shouldn't say low grade, the average quality of doing a stir fry, being able to feed your friends and family on something that tastes good, it's easy to throw together, it's quick, and you can infuse it in multiple different manners. Steaks, baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, baked beans, just different kinds of savory foods. Again, salads for people that like their vegetables and all that, do salad dressings, different kinds of things. If you just want olive oil and vinegar dressing, infuse your olive oil. You can do pickles.
What's your catchphrase?
I actually don't have a catchphrase.
You got to think of one now. You're starting a cooking show and you don't have a catchphrase. This is going to be a huge issue. It's got to be like, boom, now you're stoned. Or think of something better than that one. That was a bad one.
I don't know. I guess all my people that would be watching, and I like to call them my stone turtles. And we're all just some stone turtles living in a nice stoned world. So
that's good if you wrote a book, but like cowabunga's got to be your catchphrase then.
I could not do that just because of the copyright issue with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Son of a bitch.
I've been around so many aspects on those.
I feel like if you just sent them a letter like, hey, like I sent a letter to Honey Smacks telling them about my salmonella after I ate a box of Honey Smacks, I got salmonella poisoning, and they sent me some coupons, but they understood. I pleaded my case. They'll do that to you. It's the turtles, bro. I said if I ever had 4 kids, I would name them all after the turtles because they're such badass names. You're not fucking with a kid named Leonardo. It's just not happening.
Right. I agree with that. I have to get Kevin Eastman on the phone or in person and talk to him if that was ever possible.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Neil, and at least giving me a chance to meet the Chef Turtle that I've heard a bit about. And I had to ask why that nickname was there. Now I get it, because you love the turtles, and I think that's perfect.
Oh, thank you. And thank you very much for this opportunity. It's definitely been a pleasure, and it's my honor to be on here. I feel very blessed on that, getting that news out.
Please promote your Instagram, promote your Facebook, promote anything you need to, any links. I'll make sure I link it in the description, but I want to make sure everyone's hearing it at the end to be able to find it as well.
All right. Well, I mean, just on that note, it would be my only shout outs. Follow me on Instagram at Chef Turtle 420. The beginning of July, I'll be dropping my cooking shows, and it'll be Chef Turtle 420 on my YouTube channel. A shout out to Ruby Red Confections. The owner of that is actually the executive chef at the Mint Cafe, where I got my first original start in this industry as the sous chef of that cafe. And a huge, huge shout out to Arizona Green Life certifications for partnering with me and giving me that opportunity and the platform to expand my business, my teachings, and being able to reach the patient that way. And just help the people and help the community grow in a healthy and humble manner. So that would be pretty much the shout outs. And to, of course, the Mint dispensary that gave me my first opening with their Mint Cafe.
I just found your catchphrase. It's called "Let's Get Shell Shocked."
Okay, let's get shell shocked.